Hey, do you remember last year, episode 14, when we inspected this really cool Pinasco direct intake 225cc kit and we mocked it up? Well, today we're starting to build it. The base for this engine is a Pinasco 200 rotary intake case. It comes assembled with zip ties and a little paper gasket in the middle. But it also comes with a bunch of hardware. It comes with Kickstarter buffers, cylinder studs, engine studs, and the soft rubber engine mounts. However, we're not going to use them. We're going to use the stiffer Pinasco Racing engine mounts, because how good is a fast engine and good suspension if you really don't have any feedback from your engine? So both the shock engine mount as well as the swing arm engine mount come with these black guides, as you can see, and they go inside of a bronze bearing which is attached to the polyurethane. This guarantees a long lifespan of these components and a better feedback from your engine, which basically is part of your entire suspension. Mounting these is actually not too hard if you use the right equipment. You can slightly push them in by hand just so you get them in place. And then with the inner guide out, use a long piece of rod with washers and bolts on each side, which you hold, and then you can have them squeeze themselves in by tightening the rod. And just keep going until they're in. I then mounted the one in the back, but I forgot to film as I was distracted by a dog. So while the engine is completely empty, I did put the studs on, so I can put the engine together, mount the cylinder, which I matched to the gasket here, and then I can check if I needed to close some ports or take some material off to match them to the cylinder. And this was actually almost perfect. There really wasn't much to take off compared to, a standard P200 cases and the common tuning cylinders. Good job, Pinasco. A couple of steps later, the ports were matched, and I could clean up the cases and get ready to mount all the small bits as well as the bearings. One of the first things I put in was the guide for the input shaft, which is the same size as the later Vespa Lusso models. I then got to use my new hydraulic press to put the selector rod bearing in. I really enjoy working with the press because everything just works so smooth. When I tried to put the flywheel side bearing in, I quickly realized, yeah, there's a reason Pinasco sent me a T5 flywheel side bearing. This is made to fit the size of the Pinasco cases. And now with some heat and a little bit of video magic, this process really turns into a breeze. The Kickstarter buffers, they slide right into place. There's really nothing special about them. However, putting the Kickstarter assembly together gives me a chance to show you this neat little trick that I developed, because I really hate pulling that spring as it keeps bouncing out and you start cursing and then YouTube censors your videos. So I just slide the spring on, and then I use a clamp to prevent it from jumping out, and then simply by turning with the spring puller, boom, it goes right in. There's really almost no effort to this. I'm not going to mount an electric starter, so at a later point I'll put a plate on this, but for now this side is done. Just a little bit of oil of wherever there's friction, and then I can put this aside and work on the other part of the crankcase. On the other half of the engine, I simply put the bearings in with the usual method, with heat and a little bit of pressure. Voila. And next up I would put the brake lever assembly, and for that I put it in the engine mount and I attached it with a cotter pin. After calling this circlips bad words for a couple times, it finally went in, and trust me, it won't move. Same thing on the bigger clutch side bearing. Circlips goes in, and then it's recommended to use a metal seal, so I put a metal seal and I kind of glued it in place with rad Loctite. With this done, the crankcase is cleared for assembly, but first we gotta get some other parts ready. And one of these parts is the primary. With this, I think Pinasco knocked it out of the park with a Christmas tree, a primary transmission that already has a short fourth on. It's a common modification to put a short fourth on your 200 gearing so you can connect third and fourth better. Well, with this, you don't have to put a different gearing. You basically have the short fourth right on there, and it's actually slightly shorter than if you put a fourth gear on it. On top of that, I put a 2462 primary gearing on, which is 62 teeth on this, and then 24 is going to be on the clutch. I put the springs in place and then mount the back and front plate on my tool and rivet it all together. This is a very boring and tedious process, so I'll spare you that. However, when this was done, I realized that I had the wrong input shaft. I had one from an old P200 and I needed one from a more modern Lusu style gearbox, so I was delayed a couple days. When we come back next time, we put together the new Pinasco bull clutch, as well as take a look at the crankshaft, put all that stuff together, and get working on the cylinder. Until then, don't forget to comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you soon. Well, while I still have you here, I want to take the chance to thank Pinasco. They've been very helpful in putting this whole project together, and without them, this engine build series would not have been possible. So thank you, go check out their stuff, it's great.